Tuendelee kumsalimia tafadhali.
Kenya was transitioning
Maroon Commandos.
From a period dotted with division, marinated by the political rivalry between Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga, to a decade that will see Uhuru Kenyatta take over from his tribesman. Between 2003 and 2012, the son of Kenya's first president watched and waited for an opportunity to take a second stab at the house on the hill.
Nyinyi wananchi wenyewe mkaamua ya kwamba hiyo safari hamnipatii kura, mkapatia mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki kura. Kweli ya uongo?
And as Mwai Kibaki neared the end of his reign, the prospect of him becoming president will grow and grow.
Naomba kila mmoja wenu ile wiki chache ambazo zimebaki,
just as the country was struggling to unite,
tushikane mikono tuseme amani.
A lot of people turned out to save Uhuru. Actually, it was a saving Uhuru move.
Watu waje bwana, hapana.
Tonight,
watu wanapiga wengine mawe.
Mwataka huo umoja.
Bendera, nipe bendera.
Part 2 of our distinctive series.
Mpaka tuketi chini sisi kama wa Kenya.
An in-depth look at Kenya's divisive political landscape. I am the Kenyan historian, and this is Kenya's Great Divide.
And I'm Joe. It is exactly 1 week to the general election on March 4th, and tonight we'll be hearing again from the 8 presidential candidates.
February 2013, a historic presidential debate will be held in Kenya.
We are going to be talking about the question of land.
For instance, my friend Uhuru Kenyatta, the family is one of the largest, if not the largest, landowners in Kenya. Such a person would be less suited to implement the what people expect of the land, whatever. And to go further, there are some. His running mate is also in court over a land that is allegedly grabbed from an IDP.
Mr. Kenyatta, do you own, or your family at least, own half of Kenya? And what do you have to say about what Ms. Karua just talked about?
I think I'll begin by saying I'd be very keen for my honorable sister here to take me to that land, because, you know, then maybe I can begin doing something about it.
Uhuru knew exactly what was coming his way, and he was ready for it.
Is an issue that we have these extensive tracts of land, half provinces. Today my sister is talking about half the country. He has been in charge of this government for the last 5 years as Prime Minister. The Minister of Lands was appointed by him. To date, there is nothing that they have put forward to prove those justifications.
There is enough land for each one of us needs, but there is not enough land for each one's greed.
With 2013, it was something that it was felt to be new and an opening to perhaps like having open dialogue, and having open dialogue in a platform with everyone who is competing against each other. That's something that's so futuristic and progressive. It's to show that you can stand on the same platform, not have the same issues or agree on the same things, but you are able to conversate in a mature manner without necessarily leading to incitement and violence. So I was hopeful in 2013.
It was a second debate and will cement Uhuru's view on media.
You are not treating this man as a candidate. You are putting him aside as something special to be attacked. That happened. And it might explain why he almost refused to participate in the second debate. I don't know whether you remember that. There was a boycott. They were saying, we cannot be this. Either it's a proper debate for everybody, and everybody gets equal time and equal questions. So in the second debate, it was a little fairer, but there was that impression that they were out to get him. Now the media tries very hard to be to be honest, to be fair. But we also know that there are forces in the media that direct or give guidance as to which way, especially on political issues.
Before the debate, Uhuru and his running mate, William Samoei Arap Ruto, had to fend off sustained efforts against their candidature.
What I guess I want to get to is it feasible, is it practical to be...
Let me get to you.
All right.
That first and foremost, we have accepted to follow due process. Due process states, right, that you are actually innocent.
Until proven guilty.
Until proven guilty.
I'm talking about the practicality here of defending yourself while also being in the office of president.
We are a democracy. Kenya is a democracy. There is no statement anywhere, even by the ICC itself, that says that we are not eligible, right, to stand for office, right? As we move on,
it's not about the question of eligibility.
I'm getting to you.
Okay, answer my question.
Let me get to you. So therefore, right, even as we continue to face these charges, right, we will still continue to appear. The affairs of government, right?
But there could be a power vacuum as soon as you're inaugurated. If you have to go back and forth to the Hague, you know, those hearings last months, Uhuru Kenyatta. How are you going to do it?
Absolutely no power vacuum, because one thing that people always tend to forget. If the president
and vice president are at the Hague and not in the country.
One thing people tend to forget is that Kenya is not a banana republic.
Meli hii imeng'oa nanga, tunaenda mbele. Mkituona wengi hapa sisi ni vijana. Tunaelewana? Tunasema never again shall Kenyans lose lives or property destroyed on account of political competition.
Uhuru's clash with the media and the international community began on the 16th of December 2010. Barely 4 months after the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, the International Criminal Court came calling.
William Ruto and Henry Kosgi, leaders of the Orange Democratic Party movement, began preparing a criminal plan to attack those identified as supporters of the Party of National Unity.
More names were to follow in what looked like a balancing act.
Mr. Kenyatta's role was to facilitate the activities of the Mungiki, and Mr. Muthaura and Ali's role was to let them to commit the crimes.
Please be seated.
My name is Uhuru Kenyatta, born 26 October 1961, and I am currently the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of the Republic of Kenya.
The country was already divided. You know, from the time that Ocampo said, these are the people I want to lock up. And people said, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
It was in that division that Uhuru and Ruto saw an opportunity.
Kunaye kura ambaye tulikuwa tunatafuta mimi. Si vita ilitokea? Lakini leo inasemekana mimi ndio nilikuwa naongoza vita, na mimi mwenyewe hakuna lolote nilikuwa natafuta isipokuwa kiti yangu ya Katundu South.
And the opportunity was eliciting resentment and weaponizing the ICC indictment.
Lakini bado inasemekana mimi ni mwongozi wa vita, impunity.
The message that we were receiving is this is an attack on individuals, and these individuals belong to certain communities, and these are our people, they are our own. So because of that narrative that this is my person, this is our own, it did not come across as something where they are being held accountable for actions. It came across as if they were being targeted, and not just targeted unfairly.
Their suitability to vie for the country's top seat was questioned, and some wanted them barred from the ballot, with Uhuru and Ruto facing crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court.
tushirikiane pamoja mwaka huu wa uchaguzi tukiwa wana Jubilee.
I consider it the height of impunity to appear to be taking a court of law for granted and to be chest stamping and saying regardless, because you don't know what they will say. The court might even order an arrest.
The G10, on behalf of the women of Kenya, will not even hesitate to take such measures as shall be required to ensure that we respect, we protect, and defend this constitution.
The country itself was already polarized over the ICC, that it was not fair. And the reason it was not fair was because it was a political move which was aimed at influencing the 2012 election.
Mwenye kusema ni kesho, ati mwenye kusema ni kesho, vijana Mungu, mambo, tuko pamoja.
As the country prepared for the 2013 polls, the ICC became the very fabric that united Uhuru and Ruto. They joined hands to form the Jubilee coalition with Uhuru as the presidential candidate and William Ruto his running mate.
Wala URP mpo. Haya ndugu yangu.
Their rallying call, unity.
Haya tushikane mikono na tuseme umoja. Tushikane mikono tuseme amani.
And so that's when you begin to see this sense of cohesion and unity amongst communities, where they're not necessarily asking the tough questions based on evidence, they're asking questions based on narratives and propaganda that they view.
Walikuwa wanangojea mimi na Uhuru tusiwe hapa ndio wapigiwe kura. Lakini unajua Mungu hali chakula kwa mtu yeyote.
We looked at the numbers and we knew, yeah, this is the next government, to be very honest. But then we knew there would be a lot of challenges. You remember many people were saying, oh, a Kikuyu cannot be a president again. So there was need to also rebrand, repackage, remove that tag of a Kikuyu again.
Uhuru Kenyatta wasn't the only one who used the country's division. Raila Odinga did it too. He pushed statements that exploited the divide.
Wengine wanachukua maidadi ya watu hadi kabila hii ikiungana na kabila hii na kabila hii inatosha gari. Sisi tunasema makabila yote ya Kenya wako ndani ya code.
Habari yako. Over the years I've been greatly moved by the warmth and spirit, the strength and resolve of the Kenyan people. And I've been grateful for my connection to Kenya.
US President Barack Obama saw through the division and decided to send a message.
We all know what makes for successful elections. Kenya must reject intimidation and violence and allow a free and fair vote. Kenyans must resolve disputes in the courts, not in the streets.
But political fights will escalate.
Ocampo and ICC is not the solution of this country.
Tulinde uhuru wetu wa Kenya. Ni aibu kwenda kusomewa katika nchi ya wenyewe, unafinywa na baridi. Tulinde uhuru wetu.
Moreno Ocampo cannot resolve our problems. He's just but a prosecutor.
Uhuru and Raila supporters loved the conflict. They laid and executed plans to keep the conflict going.
Wengine wanapigana juu ya robo eka ya shamba. Robo eka maalufu. Toa hata elfu moja peke yake pate hawa. Hadi mahasula. Hasla ya nini?
Hata kwa watu wa Nyanza, sisi hatuna shida. Tuko tayari kuungana pamoja na hawa. Shida yetu ni mtu mmoja tu peke yake. Province mzima ni mtu mmoja tu peke yake tuko na shida jameni. Na huyo mtu anaitwa nani? Anaitwa nani? Anaitwa nani? Amen. Hiyo ndio, hakuna shida nyingine sisi tuko nayo. Kwa sababu huyo ndio ametuletea furugu ambazo tumeona katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Uliza wewe, tangu ulipokuwa umetoka kwa shule ulifanya wapi? Uliajiriwa na nani? Na hiyo mali yako umetoa wapi?
Nikiwaambia yale mtomoyo yake imetoa juu yangu kutoka mwaka wa 2002, vile amesema yangu kwa ile mkutano yote ameenda, na sijawahi kuona hawa watu wa magazeti wakisema wakati huo ya kwamba ameongea vibaya. Lakini wakati mimi nimesema nimechoka na lazima nitamjibu, sasa inasemekana mimi naendelea kueneza hate against a man. Say what you may, I must do what I must.
The people of Kenya must come together before and after the election to carry on the work of building your country. The choice of who will lead Kenya is up to the Kenyan people. The United States does not endorse any candidate for office, but we do support an election that is peaceful and reflects the will of the people.
Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Kenya, Kenya, Kenya taifa letu. Tushangilie kwa makofi. Kenya, Kenya nchi yetu.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
On election day, Uhuru and Ruto's intensive campaigns paid dividends. Their Central and Rift Valley bases narrowly put them beyond the reach of Raila Odinga and his running mate, Kalonzo Musyoka, according to official results by the electoral body.
I thought that it was quite close. I thought that it was neck and neck. So I knew that the results would be close. Not very surprised.
And the West actually helped Uhuru. Because when they came out blazing, warning Kenyans not to elect Uhuru and Ruto, it was too blatant. So you had a voter reaction against imperial design. Because that's what it appeared. So when you have somebody, Christian Turner, the new British High Commissioner, and he started talking very badly immediately, saying that you elect these people, there will be limited contacts. Don't expect to deal with us the normal way. No way. So people say, and who is this Mzungu? Then Johnny Carson made things worse.
The people should be thoughtful about the impact that their choices have on their nation, on their region, on the economy, on the society, and the world in which they live. Choices have consequences.
The message was very clear that Uhuru is an indictee. And if he's an indictee, he's an international criminal. And you don't go around electing criminals. It helped to catapult people more than if they had not interfered.
And that was just numbers of the presidential, not numbers of having the House. And that's why you remember now, they needed to, after, have coalitions to bring in numbers.
Asante sana. Nakabidhiwa upanga, hiyo ishara ya kwamba amekuwa amiri jeshi mkuu wa majeshi yote ya ulinzi ya Kenya.
After a polarizing campaign, the Uruto pair needed acceptance speeches that pointed in which direction they wanted Kenya to go.
Makofi! Shangwe na nderemo!
When President Uhuru Kenyatta and I decided 3 years ago that we were going to work together. It was not about winning an election. It was about bringing communities from across our regions that had been quarreling and fighting for years, not only to work together, but to live together as Kenyans.
Our nation has now successfully navigated the most complex general election in our history. Achieving peace and strengthening unity will be the goal of my government. This work begins now.
Our first nominee.
But the unity call was tainted on this day, the day they named Uhuru's first government. His cabinet would be dominated by members from Uhuru's Kikuyu community and Ruto's Kalenjin community.
People felt, okay, it's a new constitution, yes, but these are just two tribes, the Kikuyu, the Kalenjin. And true, there were two tribes, with a few now coming from northeastern, with a few in 2013, the majority, 80% was from the region of Central and the region of Rift Valley. We had very few people coming from other regions. And again, looked just the same way we were divided with Kibaki, again we ended up having that division. And you remember, in Kibaki's time, it was Kalonzo who now came in to just soften the ground and make things work.
Experts say Uhuru and Ruto did not seize abuse of power, but merely modified their tactic.
Uhuru Kenyatta had a problem. It appeared as if he had not been ready to form the government. He won the election, so it took about 2 or so months before he announced a cabinet. That in itself was an indication of lack of readiness. And so if there was that impression that he was not ready to take the government, that gives opening to the other side. So we can fix him.
Kwanza tunataka Jubilee ianze mara moja, ikae na code tu ili tupange ratiba ya mazungumzo hayo yote. Sasa
with Uhuru failing to galvanize the country, Raila Odinga and his code coalition saw an opportunity.
Tulikuwa na mbom nyingi, mbom kila pahali.
And the opportunity was to ensure President Kenyatta and his team failed to deliver on their promises.
Umesikia wakibabaika ati ya kwamba wana code wanataka kuwaondoa uongozini. Ndiyo tunataka, lakini tutatumia katiba. We shall only do so lawfully.
Kenya is a country that appreciates a lot of hybrid things. And people love it that way. That to do a hybrid in government, people will thank that. They will work with the government. They will support the government. But you bring in this, the winner take it all agenda, it is the most sad thing for Kenya. Because that is how we fight.
So that's when the reality began to sink in, that this is not necessarily something that is for the unity of all Kenyans, and it was based on political candy. Those who did well during the campaign are the ones who are rewarded, and now it was so obvious when he entered power. As much as it was his win and it was very, very close, that means that there's still a large number of people in the country who don't want to be under his leadership. So he had a lot of work to do in terms of creating some form of unity and cohesion, but he also had to fight an opposition that technically, after that election, became stronger, became even stronger, because now it motivated supporters that in the next one, we have to do better. In the next one, we have to show up, because this time around, we just missed it.
Wawezekani asilimia 60 ya nchi wawe nje. We are talking about an all-inclusive government.
Kwa hivyo tumesema ati ndani ya siku 60, siku ya Sabasaba, mpaka tuketi chini sisi kama Wakenya na kuanza kuzungumza juu ya shida yetu.
And before long,
ukiwa umetoka nchi yako unaenda kutembea nchi nyingine kusema wale ambao wanaongoza huko wangestahili kufungwa. Si ukuje hapo utuambie hapa Kenya kwetu. Lakini bado kuna watu ambao hawafurahii dunia ikitulia, kwa sababu siasa zao ni siasa za kuchemusha watu, kuweka chuki, matusi. Ni kama watu watakula matusi. Na ndio nasema saa nyingine mimi sijui kama watu wanafikiria yale wanasema au wanajua. Unataka tu uongozi, hata funga huyo ndio ati mimi nijitengenezee barabara. Hakuna barabara. Mungu ndio anapanga barabara ya kila mtu. Huwezi ujipangie kwa kutakia mwenzako mabaya. Omba Mwenyezi Mungu na uombe wananchi kwa njia tulivu. Uoneshe sera zako tofauti ya sera zako na sera za wale wengine.
I don't think that he expected, where now while you're trying to implement, you're sort of dealing with individuals who don't want you in that position. So he focused a lot more in terms of how can I make the environment easier for myself, and how can I make it more relatable to me. So I think that most of the times the president was more concerned about muting fires, which is understandable, because entering in a position like that is difficult, and putting trust back in people and trust in your leadership.
Those are competitions are healthy. Those are political parties competition. But if you look at the tension, the muzzling and mistreatment of the opposition leaders, like what happened to Raila, the denial of losing an election by the opposition when they have even lost through fair and square. All this is because our politics is ethnic based, because our politics is regional based.
And more was to come, precipitated by massive corruption allegations that followed.
Wana Jubilee ni waongo. Si ni waongo? Pili, wana Jubilee ni wezi. Si ni wezi? Tatu, wana Jubilee ni wakabila. Si wakabila?
During Uhuru's first term, stealing of public funds almost became normal. Overnight billionaires emerged as tenderpreneurs literally captured the state. It started with the NYS scandal that saw 791 million shillings looted from the taxpayer. First, Uhuru and Ruto defended then devolution CS Anne Waiguru.
Na ndipo tuwasema tuache siasa kwa maendeleo. Siasa ikifika tutapambana tu, hakuna shida. Wakati wake ukifika.
Hatutaki vijana wa Kenya eti waitwe wakora, wahuni, ati ni milisha. Vijana wa Kenya ndio watakaobadilisha taifa letu la Kenya twende mbele.
But as inquiries continued, more revelation will surface, putting the president and his deputy in a dark corner for defending what appeared like an apparent case of theft.
But surely, if a hairdresser registers 20 companies, gets contracts, is paid millions, and then you want to tell us stories, this is, please give us a break.
So intriguing was the plunder that people involved allegedly carried money in sacks.
Kiingereza mingi, mnafanyia catwalk hapa around, na ni wazi pesa ya umma imepotea. Mwenye hiyo pesa anasema aliweka kwa gunia. Sasa jameni, kweli dunia hii, we must be honest with ourselves. That we must be honest with ourselves, and we will call a spade a spade.
The NYS was not good for the president. It came to a point where it could not be done anymore, and she had to leave.
It was only the beginning. Corruption had taken root in the Jubilee administration. Talk of scandals like Eurobond, the SGR land compensation saga, the 5 billion Afya House scam, and many more.
It's also a period when he was talking about even having Big Four and things like that, but then it still seemed that there were a lot of corruption cases and scandals, because it's also a period where our newspapers were filled with cases. So people were losing hope. So where the failure or where the rain started beating was when accountability was lost out the window.
They were political dynamite, and Uhuru appeared like a man under siege.
When we go out there and we say Eurobond money was stolen and is stashed in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, are you telling me that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States have colluded? Yani mjinga ni nani?
Tunajenga dam ya Itare hapa Nakuru. Tunajenga dam ya Karemenu kule Kiambu County. Tunajenga dam ya Aror na Kimwarer kule katika sehemu ya Elgeyo Marakwet. Hizo dams zote tunajenga, tumefuata utaratibu mmoja. And we are a competent government.
Most of these dam projects either did not take place or have stalled. Corruption stories only infuriated the head of state. He viewed them as blackmail.
Na huyu anasema nataka kwenda interrogate Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Guy, anyway. You sit back and you ask yourself, are we being serious with what we are doing? Are we really being serious? Au ni mchezo tu kwa sababu gazeti itaandika pale?
He had concluded that the press had sources that undermined his presidency. His assumption was that the opposition and the civil society was using the media to turn the public against him. He raged against the mainstream media.
What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? We have the Auditor General keep saying money was stolen from Eurobond. Asema nini nimefungia? I did not appoint you. All right? I cannot sack you. What is your problem? Sema kama imeibiwa, sema iliibiwa na Uhuru, imeibiwa na nani, imeibiwa na nani. Kini kusema I'm investigating, we are looking, report. A lot of nonsense, to tell you the truth. Why can't you just say, if it's the Inspector General, amefanya makosa hii na hii, prosecute him?
The fact that there may have been some people who did strange things, and they seem to get away with it, if they did get away with it, affected the delivery of his promises. Yes, he fired a few people. We know he fired a few ministers. Some of them are still very influential. Others are crying somewhere else. But that did not change the image.
If anybody thinks they can walk in the final term of Uhuru with anything that smells of corruption, I'm very sorry of him. I know this is somebody who will go even after his own friends like David Morade. If I ever get involved in anything in the next term, that will be his legacy.
Across the country, one study shows corruption costs Kenyans 250,000 jobs every year. Because every shilling that's paid as a bribe could be put into the pocket of somebody who's actually doing an honest day's work.
the gap between the poor and the rich would widen further. Inequality was so visible that even US President Barack Obama noticed it upon his visit in 2015.
Today, a young child in Nyanza province is 4 times more likely to die than a child in Central province. That's a gap that has to be closed. A girl in Rift Valley is far less likely to attend secondary school than a girl in Nairobi. That's a gap that has to be closed.
He wanted the fabric that holds Kenya together to be made even stronger ahead of the 2017 elections.
The single most thing that divides the people of Kenya, it's its leaders and their political parties. Political parties became ethnic based, became regional based. By then, talk of ODM predominantly was more of a Luo Nyanza party. Talk of URP, with even myself not coming from Rift Valley, it was viewed within the lenses of a Rift Valley. TNA, that of Mount Kenya region, you know, Wiper, an Ukambani party. That time there was no ANC, but there was the UDF of Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya. So we said, let's collapse, and we collapsed 12 parties into one single party. 12, you can imagine 12 parties, some of them with over 75 members of parliament. That is for URP and TNA. Collapse them into one party called Jubilee, with a symbol of a handshake. Tuko pamoja.
Sisi chama chetu ni chama ya kitaifa. Sisi ni chama ambaye haina ukabila.
Sisi tunaambia Wakenya tarehe 17 kuna uchaguzi. Na kwa sababu Uhuru Kenyatta ni rais, kutakuwa na amani ya kutosha. Kenya itakuwa salama na uamuzi wa Wakenya utaheshimiwa.
That membership of 175 was coming from 43 out of the 47 counties. So we only missed 4 counties. And that was the county of Siaya, county of Kisumu, county of Homa Bay, and another county.
Unfortunately, there are those within the Jubilee Party who felt that let us just have a duopoly of 2 communities, and the moment you try to bring these other communities, then it disrupts the political arithmetic that was potent enough to get the presidency.
Now look at how we thought when we were coming in 2013, that because of devolution, people will not think so much about the presidency. Look at 2017, how we fight because of the presidency. It means we did not cure the same problem we thought from the old constitution we are coming to cure. That is why, again, we have gone back. We have now balkanized ourselves here. We want to fight and everything now again. Instead of people thinking we have counties, we have governors, we can work with them and transform our counties, we are still thinking all our help is from where? The presidency.
Still angry at how IEBC staged the 2013 presidential election, the opposition will push for the removal of IEBC commissioners led by Chairman Isaac Hassan. Weekly protests will set the country on a divisive path. The opposition had convinced its support base that Uhuru's election in 2013 was not credible and that IEBC under Isaac Hassan was not fit to conduct the forthcoming elections.
A people united can never be defeated. Tunataka bomb. Tumeshinda.
It was in 2016, just a year before the 2017 polls, and the country was simply divided.
Turudi nyuma mpaka IEBC iende wapi? Iende wapi?
Lakini tunawaambia wakijaribu kuharibu mboga za wakina mama kwa barabara, wakijaribu kuchoma vioski vya watu, wakijaribu kuvunja maduka ya watu, wakijaribu kupiga mawe magari ya wenzao, wakijaribu kusimamisha Wakenya ambao wana haja ya kwenda kazi, ndio watajua ya kwamba kuna serikali.
Everyone from the ruling Jubilee coalition to the opposition coalition NASA was preaching water but drinking wine. They were simply promising unity but sowing hate.
So the country going to 2017 was as divided as it was in 2012. There are those who are the 40% who are for Raila, and the others who may have a problem with him. We also have the international agenda. Again, it played itself in 2017.
Sasa mimi nauliza nyinyi, mtashindwa kuamua kati ya Uhuru Kenyatta na Bwana Kitendawili?
And come election day, Jubilee's intensified campaign paid off. Uhuru were re-elected for a second term.
Most of the votes that Uhuru Kenyatta got was through direct influence of William Ruto. And I've heard many people saying the president could have gotten on. It is a lie. This country, you can't, Uhuru could not have gotten those votes without the campaign and support of Dr. William Ruto.
When you look at the number of rallies we did and the number of rallies they did, we did so many rallies to convince Kenyans.
We saw the dividend. For the first time in 2017 general election, Jubilee got the highest number of members of parliament, 172. It has never happened, even maybe during the one-party system. Jubilee joined the league of ANC, you know. Jubilee joined the league of the Labour Party, or the Conservative Party, or the Republican Party, or the Democratic Party.
That was the footsteps that the Jubilee wanted Jubilee to follow. And secondly, of course, any political party, we formed Jubilee because we wanted to take over power. We wanted to be in power through a democratically elected government. And we had prepared our own succession policy. And you remember President Uhuru used to say, yake kumi, na William Ruto kumi.
The celebrations, though, will be temporarily put on hold as the Supreme Court, under Chief Justice David Maraga, annulled the election results.
The court was satisfied that the first respondent committed irregularities and illegalities inter alia in the transmission of results, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
If we didn't have this new constitution, we would have just gone back to our trend of 2007. But thank God we had this new constitution that looked at, nullified, and told us to go back to an election.
The court has made its decision. We respect it. We don't agree with it. And again, fellow Kenyans, I say peace.
Machakos Station hamjambo. Nairobi hamjambo.
Kuna wale wanafikiria ya kwamba sasa tumebabaika ati tutaenda serikali ya nusu mkate. Nataka niseme mchana kwa mchana, hakuna serikali ya nusu mkate. Hakuna serikali ya nusu mkate. Msema kweli ni debe.
But Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka will boycott the repeat presidential election.
Hapa kaunti ya Uasin Gishu tunasema wembe. Wembe! Wembe! Tarehe 17 tuhakikishe ya kwamba mzee huyu sasa tumupeleke nyumbani, asikuja kusumbua Ruto 2022. Baada ya tarehe 17 wataenda kukuapisha, wapende wasipende. Ama namna gani?
The rest of the country, for a long time since independence, we have become a victim of the two major tribes, political competition and tension between the Kikuyu and the Luo, and more so between the Kenyatta and the Odinga family. If you see the people who are in Uhuru Park swearing in Honorable Raila Odinga, 95% were from one community. If you see the people who are annoyed with that scenario, might be Jubilee supporters, but more so people from Mount Kenya region.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta, I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya,
in full realization of the high calling,
in full realization of the high calling,
I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
It was fulfilling for us, especially people who support William Ruto, because we knew that if President Uhuru Kenyatta secures his term, which he did, it would have been a platform, the Jubilee development successes would have been a platform for Dr. William Samoei Ruto to campaign in 2022. So from where we sit, it was exciting. It was a affirmation and commitment and covenant of Kenyans that they were saying that Jubilee, you have done well in the second term, first term, and you need second term to continue the transformation agenda.
The repeat presidential election will be conducted in a tensed environment, with violence being witnessed in some parts of the country. It had set tone on what was to follow. Odinga was back to what he does best: antagonism.
Uhuru must, Ruto must, Koinat must, Matiang'i must.
Raila Amolo Odinga, in full realization of the high calling, assumed the office of the People's President of the Republic of Kenya.
On the 30th of January 2018, he gave his best, what they had come to expect. And then he attacked the Jubilee administration and the electoral body for conducting what he called a shambolic election.
Today's step is one step towards doing away with electoral autocracy.
But as questions lingered over what happened and the consequences, the glue that held together the ruling Jubilee party was melting.
We went for the first PG after being sworn in. That is when committees of the House and House leadership was being formed. When we went there, we were shocked that the president was very abrasive, was very aggressive, was talking with a lot of quarreling, insulting us, saying we can't dictate to him anything. We need to do our job, and it was not a very, I would not say it was a pleasant experience. I wouldn't want to use many words, but it was not a very brilliant experience. Looking that this was our party leader, our president that we had campaigned for, voted for, ensured he got his re-election, both in after the nullification by the Supreme Court. So we were shocked, and from then on, we noticed the telltale signs that all was not going to be well for too long.
Hii kijana anaitwa Ruto, unajua kila weekend anatanga tanga kila pahali. atakuwa anapitia hizi machorochoro. Akiona kuna kitu inaenda kona kona, mumwambie. Si namna hiyo? Si namna hiyo? Tuhakikishe kazi ya wananchi imefanyika. Tumekubaliana? Ni wangapi wamesema tuache siasa twende kazi?
He was not happy about everybody. He was mad at everybody, and that is when he went to form a pseudo government with opposition.
On 9th of March 2018, the unthinkable happened. Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga put aside their differences and agreed to work together.
Watu wawache bwana, hapana, hapana, hapana.
It caught the deputy president unawares, and that made him angry.
Sasa wale nataka niwaambie, hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani. Hiyo haiwezekani bwana.
What was discussed and agreed upon remained a mystery, but the handshake between Uhuru and Raila became a sword that split the president and his deputy.
Ati wanajipanga huko porojo, fitina, tutavunja Jubilee. Watavunja Jubilee ya nani? Hiyo ni ndoto ya mchana nani? Hiyo msahau kabisa.
It appeared as if accommodating Raila would mean a reduction of some DP activities or influences, because you now have a new player in the field, and the president's problem was to keep the two of them balanced, and increasingly, then the DP appears as if he's becoming less and less important in the whole thing, as that was happening, you have Raila appearing to becoming more and more important, to the point where as if he had taken over the role of the DP.
President Kenyatta, for the first time in the history of the world geopolitics, I've studied major democracies where a president elected by a majority political party and is transiting leadership is busy organizing the opposition to take over from him and forgetting his legacy.
Uhuru Kenyatta assured the country that this was not a platform to use to give power to Raila. But from where we are, you can tell, the telltale signs are that the handshake, the real intention, was to ensure that they frustrate the deputy president, to ensure that he does not become president of this republic.
After the 2017 elections, and after the 2013 elections, and after the 2007 elections, there were enough people in Kenya talking about secession. The president won with about 53-point-something%, and Raila got 46%. In our context, that's almost 46% is almost 50%. And you and me know, and maybe I could ask you, what would happen if after that swearing in of Raila by a very forensic support base who felt that they have no way of ever getting into the mainstream of government, if that forensic crowd decided that they were going to storm State House, and State House, the GSU and everybody else decided to defend itself, would have a bloodbath. But that would even be a smaller bloodbath if you compare with what would obtain if that crowd shouting Tialala were to meet with the crowd of the Nairobi business community. Would even have more bloodshed.
Energized by Odinga's backing, Uhuru launched a calculated onslaught against the DP. First, he chopped off his influence in government and made Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i a super minister of some sort.
Ndugu yangu amesimama kidete, tumesaidiana na tutaendelea kusaidiana. Hata tukiangalia siku za usoni tutakuwa tukiangalia pamoja.
Siku ile, mimi nauliza nyinyi, siku ile Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa anataka mwanaume wa kusimama na yeye. Muliona mtu ya kitendawili? Muliona ule watermelon? Muliona hao sahi wanazunguka hapa?
Okay, karibuni. The tension that was in the country, the violence that was occasioned in some parts of the country, And the fact that we were in a very uncomfortable situation as a country between the election, both elections, and actually all the way through till January. And it was upon seeing a possibility of another crisis erupting similar to the one that we saw in 2007. I decided that this country doesn't deserve that.
Uhuru will stop appearing together with Ruto in public. It will be the beginning of what was to follow. The fight against corruption was then launched. Cabinet ministers, governors, and other government officials suspected of corruption were targeted in this war. A majority of those who fell by the wayside were either Ruto's friends, allies, or supporters, and so his team argued.
The intention has always been to ensure they intimidate people around the deputy president. We agree that corruption must be fought by, because there are structures that fight corruption. There is the EACC, there is DCI, there is the judiciary. We should allow the law to take its course. But these people are weaponizing the fight against corruption to undermine the people associated with deputy president.
The president has so far openly attacked his deputy on matters corruption.
And it would be really the honorable thing that if you are not happy with it, that you would actually, step aside and allow those who want to move on, and then take your agenda to the people, which is what happens in any normal, democracy, because you can't have your cake and eat it. Yeah, you can't on the one hand say I'm not going, and because at the same time I don't agree. You've got to decide, because you must be principled in that endeavor. Yeah? That's what happens in a democracy, so that you don't confuse people.
With Uhuru literally having thrown him out of the bus, Ruto decided to fight his second-term agenda, the BBI project.
Mulikuwa mnataka kubadilisha katiba kwa sababu mulikuwa mnataka kutengeneza rais pepari. Mtu ambaye ataenda bunge, achague wabunge, wawe mawaziri ili aweze kucontrol bunge. Mulikuwa mnataka kuweka rais ambaye atatumia ile ombudsman kule judiciary ili aweze kumanipulate the judiciary.
In the BBI provision, there is that every major corruption case which steals people's money, those cases must be concluded in 2 years. It's one of the biggest things. But there are enough people in government, who have got those corruption issues, and they would not want this to be concluded in 2 years.
Lakini kwa sababu mmepatikana na aibu, kwa sababu mmegunduliwa ya kwamba mlikuwa mnataka kuturudisha nyuma, saa hizi mmechanganyikiwa, hamutaki kusema kulikuwa na ombudsman, hamutaki kusema kulikuwa na mawaziri watatoka bunge, hamutaki kusema yale mambo maovu ilikuwa imepangwa ndani ya BBI. Saa hii mnajaribu kutuuzia mambo ya ukora. Atio kulikuwa na mambo ya tax holiday.
Uhuru and Raila wanted the constitution changed and more positions created with an aim of reducing electoral conflict.
That what we have seen in the past, starting all the way from when we started multi-party politics and the violence that we see in elections, the divisions that we see in the country, the ethnic animosity that we see in the country, that if we started dealing with some of these issues, maybe some of this thing would disappear. That was what BBI was supposed to represent. And it is most unfortunate, like I keep saying, that people have forgotten why we were looking at this, and for short-term political gain have decided to deny Kenyans of what is legitimately in their interest.
In the BBI agenda, Ruto saw an opportunity to hit back at the president. Using mostly legislators from Uhuru's backyard of central Kenya, the DPE launched and sustained attacks against the BBI.
Unajua walituambia nobody can stop reggae, si ndio? Wakasahau kuna Mungu mbinguni.
Nyahururu ni hustler nation ama ni kitendawili?
He called the agenda a selfish move that only sought positions for the powerful at the expense of real issues affecting Kenyans.
Stop the contempt. Stop the nonsense. Even though you want a president who will protect the wealth that some of us have, but the citizens of Kenya want a president who will first prioritize the creation of jobs for millions of young people in Kenya.
Ruto's defiance heavily punctured their ailing relationship. And when the court stopped the BBI reggae, Ruto danced and laughed at the president and Odinga.
And we said, if we don't deal with some of these issues, people will consistently feel pent up. And that is why we said, let us actually focus ourselves on this. Let us do it. It was not about who was going to be president, who was not going to be president. How many times have I told you people, I am very grateful to the Almighty God and the people of Kenya for the opportunity they've given me. I am more than happy to serve out my time and finish my program. But I also believe that this is part of my agenda, to be able to bring people together and to be able to ensure that we have a peaceful, stable, united country.
As we head into the next general election, the country is already divided.
When the truth gets known by the people, you have a reason to fear. What we have seen now is panic within the camp of DP, and that is why they are resorting to violence. But why is he that he's coming? Why is he coming to cause violence in our area? Why can't he cause violence in his area? Why has he singled out this region for all the problems and the difficulties? Hata sisi wenyeji tujiulize kwa nini tunakuja kupiganishwa.
Tunataka siasa ifanywe kwa njia ya amani. Mambo ya kurushiana mawe ni mambo ambayo inarudisha Kenya yetu nyuma. It is primitive and backward for any leader to organize thuggery and hooliganism using the young people of Kenya. The young people of Kenya want jobs. They want to do business. They want to run their enterprises. You cannot misuse them to throw stones so that you can protect your turf as politicians.
Though not official, it's not a secret, Uhuru Kenyatta is pushing for Raila Odinga to be his successor.
It is not my duty, nor is it my responsibility to tell people or to tell Kenyans how or where they should vote. But it is my duty to remind Kenyans that they need to look at who they vote for and why they are voting for that particular person.
Now, President Kenyatta, and I want to advise him, should be a statesman like President Kibaki. Because what he's trying to do, President Moi tried to force the candidature of Uhuru Kenyatta on the people of Kenya in 2002. And the people rebelled in thousands, regardless of their tribe. Even for the first time, there was convergence because they were tired of the leadership of President Moi. So they did not want an extension either through proxy or through his own anointed leader.
And like I'm saying, it is unfortunate that within and amongst us, there are those who will sacrifice interest over personal political agendas. And I believe these are the things that Kenyans need to look for. But at the end of the day, it is not for me to dictate to Kenyans who to elect. It is for Kenyans to decide what is in their best interest.
This is the Kenyan Historian.